Hello, Missladypetal here. I'm doing a quick flip through of the memory file that I've made for my mum for Mother's Day this year. This'll be done and uploaded after on Mother's Day, so that the surprise can remain a surprise for my mum. But what I essentially wanted to do was to pick out just a few photos that meant a lot to me, but kind of documented a few generations of our family. And I didn't want to do anything really in depth. I just wanted something that she was happy to kind of drag around with her. If she wanted to, she could chuck it in a filing cabinet. So what I've used here is a Heidi swap memory file. She's got a few different designs in these, and I just managed to find this, and it was a kit. So I've got a photo flap, and I had some inner file covers. I had a few different things, and I think it's worked out really quite well. I was very excited when I got the project, thinking that I could do something really nice for my mum. And while I was at the same store, I picked up a few of her sprays, and the one that I was I think the most impressed with was the navy, and that's what this swirl's been done in. I have a lovely swirl corner template, and that navy I think is a lovely neutral to be able to spray on any art journal page or to add texture. I mean, these files are pre-printed with a lot of details in them, which is exactly why I got it, because I don't scrapbook anymore, and I didn't want this to be a difficult project for me to create everything from scratch. So I managed to get this entire memory file done in 7 hours, to give you an idea. But that's still a long time. Like, I was chomping at the bit to get this done, but I wanted it to look nice. So I did things like inked all the edges of everything just to give them definition. I sprayed almost every file folder inside and out, and the envelopes. There's some pretty butterfly. They're like 3D butterflies on here. This is a photo of my mum and her brother when they were toddlers, and this was taken in their backyard in Sydney in the early 1950s, and I love it. I mean, you can see my mum had beautiful dark brown skin and gorgeous golden blonde hair. Really, really cute. And so we'll move this across here like this. So one of the things I like with the memory files is you can add things into them. They're strong manila files, and they have all these folds like a normal manila file down. So you can make these various widths depending on the amount of memorabilia and photos and things that you want to put in them. But I used some ephemera here. And this ephemera I actually pulled out of an old book, but it came like this, and it was not printed on, and I thought, oh, look, this is going to be ideal. It was falling apart, so I used some washi tape to actually hold the pages together. But and then I used, I don't know if you can see the butterflies down here, but I used some Versamark ink with butterflies, and then some random stamps, that background vintage stamps that I had in Memento Cocoa. And I didn't ink my stamps really strongly. I just inked them very lightly because I didn't mind if the impressions were not perfect. I was just kind of go for a bit of a vintage background. This photo was taken on the same day, and it's of my grandmother and my great-grandmother and one of my uncles. And you know, I guess I was starting around the time from my great-grandmother here. She was such a larger-than-life figure in our family. And so, you know, I grew up with all my family around, and I wrote a little Mother's Day letter. I made some handmade envelopes with my Stampin' Up! Score tool. So I've got some awesome measurements for that. So, and in that, I just used some Kaiser Craft memory cards, and these are little like journaling cards. And I got my sons and myself to write little sentiments that Mum can just pull out. And these are dotted around the file. This is my grandmother when she was a young teenager. I think she was about 17 in this photo, and she'd been out dancing. So she wasn't even married yet. And this is some old, this paper's 1962 music print, and I used it. This is the reverse impression from the stencil from when I sprayed the front. So I sprayed the front, and then of course the stencil was covered with ink, so I just popped it and rolled it with a brayer on this vintage paper, and it worked out really well. This is a pocket that I made, and it's got my favourite photo in it of my grandmother and my mum as a baby. I love it because the sun is framing them, and they kind of look like a bit ethereal, and it just, they're smiling, and it's just, I don't know, it's just my favourite photo of my mum and my grandma when my mum was a baby. So I made this pocket, and it expands a bit, and I just have a few journaling notes. This is a jelly print that I did, and I used an amazing, it's like plastic rubber lace tablecloth, and I bought it on a roll from my local craft store that had like home furnishings and that kind of thing. And you can buy these as like table runners or tablecloths, and this particular print I liked. So what I actually did was, this was on a piece of scrap paper, and actually jelly printed and pressed this into a jelly plate, and then I had that print, but then I turned it over, and then I just pressed and brayered this into another background, and it just is the most awesome geometric print. It's probably my new favourite thing, and that was only like $5.99 a metre. So I got a metre of it, and I'm gradually cutting it up and throwing it in Happy Mail and doing all sorts of amazing things with my jelly plate, and just giving it away because it was such a good price, and it's tougher than a stencil, and it rolls up into a roll. It's not stiff at all. This is my favourite photo, and so we've got another file, an inner file, and you can see the memory thing falls out. But we've got another inner file, and it's a little bit smaller, and this is all pre-done. I sprayed it with a mask that I have, one of my favourite masks, and it's with the Heidi Swap Teal or Aqua, and it's come out very, very pretty. This is my favourite photo of my mum and me when I was 3 months old, and I just taped it in there with a bit of washi tape and just told her I loved this photo. Very simple. Giving her the opportunity to actually write some extra things in here that she likes, and I just said on this photo stack, a few memories from our family when my babies were born. So this is my oldest child, Brandon, when Dominic was born in the year 2000. I'll pull this down so I can show the photo stack a little bit better. A photo of Brandon when he was born, and my mum and her two grandbabies when Dominic was born. My boys growing up on a day to school, and the boys that they're becoming now at our wedding renewal. You can hear that gecko in the background. I love this photo of my boys. I'll have to bring it down a bit. Love this photo of my boys. Don't have many photos where they're having, and there's little sentiments. There's another little sentiments card here. So I've got little presents for her. This is my great grandma. So you saw her when she was younger. This is her when I was growing up, and that was looking out the backyard of my parents' house, and looking out to the backyard behind. And I love that. She was my granny. She was beloved. She only died a couple of years ago, and I miss her greatly. She was larger than life. And I've inked and stamped all the stacks with more of the vintage stamps everywhere, and even onto the photo with some stays on ink, just to carry that kind of vintage theme through. This is, and I've used some duct tape in here, so just to strengthen the binding and the adherence, but I love the randomness of it. I've done a little bit of Tim Holtz stencil and I've got some Tim Holtz melange tissue paper behind. This is my absolute favourite photo of my mum and I when I was a toddler, and I just love the light in this photo of mum's golden hair, and you know, she's just got this gorgeous look when she's thinking of me. I've got more of those little memory cards in here from the boys and my husband, and I've sprayed it. This is a photo of my nana and my mum's mum, when I was 3 months old. I added in, I made an extra ATC card, so I added that in for mum, and I've got the ATC swap on the back, and a card from my husband on Mother's Day. And I've left a lot of the tabs in this blank so that mum can do things that she likes. Some of my homemade texture paste, and I've tinted it with some Tim Holtz reinkers in the spruce. It goes like a mint colour. That colour is much darker in real life, but I love that. That's worked really well. This is one of my favourite photos of my youngest boy when he was little, and the hats. I got him into a hat phase, and he still wears hats today. And I just had some tissue paper, and I just added it in, just some random photos as I was going through. Now this is a stack that I made myself, so I just did it with washi tape. And this was my family when I and my husband renewed our wedding vows, and so this is my dad and my mum and me and my brother. This is my husband and I, and this is my husband and I and our 2 boys on that day. And I started writing some notes on the back for mum about my memories of that day and how it was nice to share it with her. This is my nana with her second husband, because my grandpa died, and this was in the later years of her life, and we were there for that wedding, and that was gorgeous. This is the card, my mum's Mother's Day card. I'm going to get all my boys to write in it, but I thought I would stick it in this, and more of the texture paste. So this is another one of the inner folders from the Heidi swap memory file. This is my absolute favourite photo of me and my boys at the moment. It was taken in Mother's Day in 2012. And I just used a little bit of Tim Holtz's distress paint over the top, because I didn't want it to look plain. I wanted it to look just that little bit aged and rough and a little bit more modern. And I love that. And so I don't know if mum's got that photo. So now, you know, she can show this as a brag book if she wants to. This is one of my jelly prints with a handmade stencil that I printed recently. And on the back's another set of layered jelly prints that I made, and I love all the colours with those. And what I've done here is I've said down the bottom, Mum, put some of your favourite photos here. And I haven't labelled any of this stuff, and I've left her another page here. And then in this one, I've made a big handmade envelope, and then I sprayed it. I've got one of my digital girls that I did in my digital art journal on my iPad that I drew with a background that I like. And then on the back, I've written my mum a letter, because occasionally I like to do that, and we tend to keep these letters. And that's what I've done in the back. And so that was on really good quality photographic paper, like thick, glossy photocopy paper. And then I've left the back, just sprayed a thing on with the new Delusions sprays, and that one's pomegranate. And I left it blank, and then I bound it with some yarn. I'm really into the yarn at the moment for binding. This is my favourite yarn, and I tend to do all my letter journals with it. So that's my memory file. I really love the idea that I can just send that in the post to my mum. I didn't have to buy her a scrapbook. I don't have to put everything on 12 by 12 pages. I've used all acid-free products with that, so I know that they will last. And I can now give that as a gift to my mum, and that memory file kit cost me $12.95, and I made a point of not adding stacks and stacks of embellishments to it, making it thicker and lumpy and bumpy, just using a few bits and pieces, some sprays, some templates, and a lot of handwritten notes in it, because I think that adds to the charm of the sentiments. So that's it from me today. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope it inspires you to maybe make some memories of that yourself. And I've seen Claudia's Hawaii memory file from her folio from Tim Holtz. This is very much along the same lines, but it's pre-printed and a little bit different. So I think probably a little bit less work than the Tim Holtz one. So yeah, very, very awesome. Okay then, ciao for now, and don't forget to learn something today. It keeps us young. Goodbye from Missladypetal.